Hey guys, welcome to Homebanao podcast. This is a very interesting and a different kind of podcast. We are interviewing an architect who specializes in parametric architecture. Now, if you didn't know what that is, you're at the right place. We have architect Suvarna with us. Hey Suvarna, how are you?
Hi Nikhil, how are you? I'm good. How are you doing?
Great, great. So, Suvarna, for those of you who don't know, she's the founder of ParaArch, an architecture firm focused on parametric architecture. Now, my understanding of parametric architecture is very different than what I'm sure someone like Suvarna would say. What I have understood is this: basically shapes which you can't think of, which are very different, which I don't think makes sense to have thought of in the human brain, and when you see them in real, you're like, how the hell did someone think of it? So that is my understanding of parametric architecture.
So you
So
are very
Swarna, can
close.
you?
Yeah, you're very close to what like parametric architecture looks like to everyone else. But trust
Mhm,
me, like even a single dot that has been put in the thing, like in the design, is thought
mhm.
of, and there is a reason behind it. So yeah.
So yeah, so can you just tell us, for those of us who don't know what parametric architecture is? By the way,
So
guys, for those of you who are joining us, please do leave comments and questions if you have related to parametric architecture for Suwana to answer. We'll definitely take up those questions as we go along with the show. So Suvarna, please tell me what's parametric architecture.
So parametric architecture, basically whatever we see in nature, or whatever how we perceive architecture. Earlier it used to be like you just draw a line and you start building your design through that. Parametric is
Mhm.
a very logic based design. So if for example you take a cube, okay, and you want to like you know that for a cube you need the dimension of a side, let's say A, and
Okay.
you just have that A is like your parameter which is changing. So if you take like a size of 5 and your cube changes to a 5 of size, and that's how parametric works. Basically it's working with numbers and logic building and how you want a particular design to be. So there's a lot of
Okay.
constants and variables which I can actually show you through this like this live talk. I'll actually show
Okay.
you how a parametric tower works, and I can show a presentation and
Okay.
walk you through what it is and how it is done.
So basically, what you're telling me is, unlike where you would just draw something or something like that, what you're telling me here is that you'll have various constants which can be changed, and that is
Yes.
what dictates the
Yeah.
design.
That is what detects
Okay.
the design. Yes, exactly.
So just to understand, I mean, how is this different from a normal, modern or a contemporary design or whatever
So
traditional design?
normally what happens is normally what we do is you know how like after the industrial era happened. So I'll go back like to the history of parametrics and how it happened.
Hmm.
So basically, what happened before industrialization was everything was done as per the client, and there was no assembly line happening. So everything was customized. And then the
Okay.
industrial revolution happened and everything started becoming like too mainstream because they had a design, they had a proper way or like a set way of doing anything. So if you see a
Okay.
glass, like it will look the same in the entire region or the areas where they transport it. So after
Hmm.
like with parametric architecture, what you can do is you build up a system. So let's say I want to design a vase or a building or whatever. It's like scalable from a jewelry to a city. Like we have done all
Hmm.
that in our college days, in our academic projects. So
Hmm.
basically, like now it's the era of mass customization. Everyone wants things according to their needs, and they want it quick and they want it to be as per their standard. So this is how
Yeah.
parametric architecture like really helps you out. No one wants the
Oh, okay.
same replicated thing. No one wants the
Okay.
same thing, and like they would really be like, why do they have the same table as me, or why do they have the same anything same in two houses? It's like, how could you do
So,
that?
so
That is
in
the
your
reaction you
eyes,
get.
so you're telling me in your eyes, parametric architecture is something related to customization than the other
Yeah, it's
things.
very easy to customize in it. Like I need 10 minutes and I can maybe churn out 100 designs out of it, because
Oh
it's all
wow.
visual coding based. So when you code the design, I like for example, if I'm coding a vase or glass or something, I just need to change the base of it maybe and make it a square vase, or I need to change the profile of it or the cross section, whatever term suits you, and I can
Okay.
create like a new design in a second. So that's how quick and that's the flexibility it gives us. And when it comes to architecture, we can do a lot of analysis over it, like environmental analysis, and we can check how feasible it is to actually build it. So optimizing. These are the terms
Okay.
that we end up using when we are doing like this advanced architecture
So you're
projects.
talking about all these terms which you're talking about, right?
Yeah,
These
yeah.
are terms we come across in software engineering. We come
I know,
across
yeah.
in I mean optimization in factories. What exactly do you mean by architecture coding? Like I'm genuinely, I'm a bit surprised by that phrase which you
So
used.
I can actually share my screen right now if you want. This is a project that I took up in my in a workshop that I recently took. So I can share my
Okay.
screen and I'll maybe
Sure.
give
Can
you
you
a like
please show us
small
what?
walkthrough over what architectural coding is. Yeah, I'll share my screen. Okay,
Sure.
is
Sure.
it? Yeah. So it's
It's
on.
visible to everyone.
It's visible.
Yes.
Okay,
So what
great.
are we seeing?
So basically,
This.
yeah, so basically there are these advanced tools. There is one tool which is called Rhinoceros, and it has a plugin called Grasshopper. And
Okay.
these have been under development from past roughly 10 years, not even more than that. So this is like primarily very new thing that we are exploring, and for especially for India, it's very new. So
Okay.
basically, like you see this building form that I've created. So basically,
Mm-hmm.
it's a tower of 40 floors, and
Okay.
let's say I take out the final output of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is one of my so in parametric architecture we call these iterations. So this is one of
Okay.
my iteration for this design. Let's say I
Okay.
want to, so this is the base curve like I was talking about, that you need
Mm-hmm.
to change the profile. I'll change this
Okay.
profile a little. Did you see
Mm-hmm.
the design changing? Do you
Yes.
see the design
Oh, the
changing?
entire design is
The
changing.
entire design changes exactly. Or let's say I
Okay.
want it to be okay, if 40 floors is like too much for my design, I'll just change
Mm-hmm.
the number, let's say to, maybe I'll change it to 60. Let's say I want a
Okay.
60 floor building. I just change the
Okay.
number and I get like a whole new design to it. So
Okay.
this is how we start with the iterations and all the terms that I'm talking about. Or I
Mm-hmm.
change, so basically you see how I'm changing the numbers and the
Mm-hmm.
entire
So what
geometry is
exactly are you
changing.
doing here? Oh, okay.
So
So
this,
the, I mean,
yeah,
basically the level
the
of, I
rotation
don't know,
thing,
twirl.
the twirl or the rotation. Yeah,
That
exactly.
that's basically
It's
like a
changed.
super fine softie.
And so
So.
I was talking about. So let's say I have this building. I want to create
Mm-hmm.
like a square profile. I'll
Mm-hmm.
click this. I'll change
Mm-hmm.
those. Like that's all it takes. That's
Oh
really all
wow.
it takes.
So
Yeah,
the layout of the building is just done like just like that.
it's just done like that. Yeah, I change it
That.
and it's done. Like it's not looking very pleasing to eye right now because I have not
Mm-hmm.
put a logic to this
Mm-hmm.
particular thing that I'm showing. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's the gist of it. Like it is as quick as this and it's all logic based.
So coming, okay, so
Yeah.
coming back,
Yeah.
now coming back, I want to understand this. You just showed us some examples, right? How you were able to change certain
Yes.
parameters and just like that
Yes.
change the design.
It changes. Yeah.
You've shown us in some sort of curved designs and all that. I want to
Yeah.
understand if this principle which you just mentioned of customization is possible with a general design. So what I
It
mean
can
by
be.
that
It
is,
is. Yeah.
okay. So what, like, can you just take us through that? I mean, at least how does it work conceptually? Can you just explain it once?
So basically, like one more thing that we have to consider with parametric architecture is this is something which we explore when we want to work with complex, let's say very complex designs. Or
Why is
so
that?
that's because these tools help us realize that like it's very easy to design something which is which looks crazy and which looks very complex, and then you don't
Hmm.
know how to realize it into an actual building or an actual object that you're designing. So this is
Okay.
where these tools come in handy. So these will give us like each and every information for that tower that I showed you. So this
Hmm.
was amazing the way like I can get the floor plates. Like I'll just go back to my screen again and I'll show another
Sure.
file to you. Okay.
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
this is, yeah. So this is a parametric tower. So basically you see these objects
Floor.
like so
This
these
is
are the
something like the
floors.
floor.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
something like the floor. So I can actually, like, through coding, I can identify which is my 40th floor. I can
Mm-hmm.
derive it from this image, or like from this model, and I can detail
Okay.
it out, and I can just put it back, or
Oh
like link
wow.
it to that floor. Because this, like, when it comes to a design like this, you can't do it by hand drafting or physically, you won't ever achieve at a formula like this. And if you do, it's going
Absolutely.
to be very difficult to start detailing it out. So that's why
Okay.
we got something like this. So now what I did with this parametric tower was, I wanted like a balcony sort of a thing. So within the
Mm-hmm.
same code that I showed you, I created these
Mm-hmm.
balconies. I created a lift course sort of a
Oh
thing in that. And
wow.
I created these vertical lines and these horizontal lines, which
These
will
would be something like the
incorporate
structure.
like structural part of it. Exactly. So this would be like the
Wow.
structure. So this is
My
how
God.
useful. Yeah.
So
So this
basically,
is what it was.
basically, you're moving away from your sketches to literally
Yeah.
lines of
So these
code.
are these are digital sketches, and yeah, because when I want to design something like this, it's not like it comes directly to us. We have to
Mm-hmm.
sit and sketch. We have to have an idea that, okay, I want a straight tower, then I want it to twist it in a certain way. Then I don't want it to be like the straight formation. And since it's a tall tower, I need it to
Mm-hmm.
taper a bit. So I've scaled the
Correct.
floor plates, and that's how you evolve. So this is like the entire design process. In seven
Wow.
steps, I have like everything that I need for this building. And then you go
Mm-hmm.
ahead with the structural designers, and there are people who are, specializing in building these type of like towers and everything. And yeah, that's how you go about it. So it's
Wow,
a
this is
very back
superb.
end. So you are at the
So,
core of the design. As an architect, you are at the core of it.
so instead of thinking of a design as shapes, and it may seem counterintuitive, you're thinking of design as numbers. If is that the
Yeah,
right way to
exactly.
think about it?
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, in a way, yeah. Because I just changed, like, I was changing the rotation angles, I was changing the scale of it, I was changing the number of floors. So all these are numbers. In the end, they are all numbers, nothing but
Okay.
numbers. So we are always working
Wow.
with creating rules as to how we want to create something, and we work with graphs and parable, you name it, and we are working with that mathematical elements. So when we were
Interesting.
joining architecture, and they said that
Mm-hmm.
mathematics is important for you, and they check your score in it, this is actually
Mm-hmm.
where you apply it, because in 5 years of bachelor's we never applied it, not even
Okay.
trigonometry, because we were too busy getting the submissions done. And then
Okay.
when I entered this master's course of digital architecture, all the
Mm-hmm.
mathematics like just came floating back to me, that okay, I need to know everything, I need to know my things. And yeah,
Okay.
so this is how it was applied. Yeah.
Superb. Absolutely superb. So, continuing this, I this is definitely, we have a comment section from Meet Shah. This will definitely help
Okay.
in creating large urban scapes for game design or even environment design. Actually, I think that's a very
Yeah.
good use case of what he just mentioned. I mean, I did not think of that, but games like PUBG, with basically any battle royale game, right?
Any
PUBG,
background.
Call of
Yeah.
Duty, Fortnite, they have
Yes.
incredible architecture. I don't know if you've seen,
I know. Yeah,
and
I've
I'm
seen it.
sure
I've
most
seen
of
it.
these are, and I'm sure most of these are parametrically generated. I'm sure they are not putting an
Yeah,
AutoCAD
because
file there, or else.
yeah, yeah, they're definitely not doing that. So definitely it helps, and it is like I have seen projects where they're trying to gamify the entire, like, if you want to design a housing society, so they have done
Okay.
like, they have gamified the entire process. It was done like a Tetris. It was done by one of my classmates, and it was
Okay.
amazing, like the way you can handle this, because in the end you are just putting in logics. It's all about what you think and how you think, and you just start building up on logics. So it definitely,
Absolutely.
like, I have a presentation where I can show you the scales of how far people have gone. So
Absolutely.
should I go ahead?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure,
Okay.
sure.
Okay. I'll share my screen. I'll put a slideshow. So
Sure.
basically, this is something like I'm showing the Mumbai International Airport. So this is
Hmm.
one example, which is the only example in India which is this huge and
Okay.
done at this scale. And it is mind
Hmm.
blowing, like the way they have executed it, and it looks amazing when you're there. Like you can see the scale, like the people there are so tiny, and you can see how huge it is. So this is one
Hmm.
example that everyone knows, and it is done parametrically. Then another
So
example that got
as you ask
yeah.
as you mentioned this, right? Sai Sanjay has a question for us. He says, "How far away do you think India is with implementing parametric architecture?"
It is.
Sanjay,
It
it's already been
definitely is.
implemented.
Yeah, it is.
At
It
least
is
to a start,
implemented.
it
Yeah.
has been done. Mumbai International Airport, what she just showed you, right? It's already been implemented. You may not
Yes.
hear about it, but I'm 100% sure it's implemented. Like, correct me if I'm
It
wrong,
is.
Suvarna.
No, it is implemented, and there is another airport coming up by Zahadid in Navi Mumbai.
Hmm.
So I'm like, she
Okay,
is like the goddess of parametric architecture. Parametric architecture, the term itself was coined by one of her like disciples, and he is owning, like, he is the head person at Zahadid Architects now, Patrick Schumacher. So he coined this
absolutely.
term parametric architecture. But
Hmm.
so you can see, and he is definitely going to come up with something amazingly complex and cool looking in
Hmm.
Navi Mumbai, and we are all waiting for it. So yeah, it is, that is going to be the second large scale project, and there's a lot
Okay.
of parametric architecture being done in Bangalore for that matter, because
Oh,
there are people who are doing it. Cadence architecture is making houses out of these principles. So I'll
oh,
show a
wow.
picture of it in the coming slides. This
Sure.
is
So please
another
take us through the
example.
presentation.
Yeah. So this is Beijing's Bird's Nest Stadium that everyone knows about this. And this, so
Absolutely.
you see these bird's nest, the twigs that they've shown. So all these are
Hmm.
the structural members. This is what is holding the entire stadium together. So everything
Oh,
in this, starting from the structural analysis, and everything is done parametrically and taken to softwares which support the structural design of it. So there are softwares like Revit and everything. So Revit is used here. They have used, like, they have actually simulated how, if in case there is a fire incident, how
hmm,
people will run away and how they would go out. So all these
wow.
actually form like a niche of parametric architecture. Somehow or the other, they are all related to each other, because till
Okay.
we design, like, if I come up with a design like this and tell you
Hmm.
build it, you won't build it for me till I tell you that this is 100% safe for the people there, and this is buildable, and this will be built at this cost. So all these things are
Absolutely.
equally important when you are into architecture, and especially like parametric architecture.
Absolutely.
So
I completely agree.
yeah. So if I start from a very small scale, so these are the few pictures that I pulled out from the internet. So starting
Hmm.
from a product like lamps, lamps are like really famous when it comes to parametric objects. So you may
Hmm.
have seen it and not realize that okay, this is done parametrically. But I can like literally code this, the curve that they have achieved. I can code it and I can create, like, again I can create 10 iterations of the same script. So this is how parametric works. Or this furniture, which is like pretty famous on Instagram, at least for the people who follow a lot of parametric works like me. So, and this is the house which is done in Bangalore. It's this interiors is done in Bangalore. This is
Oh,
done by
wow.
Cadence Architects. Yeah, and the
So
residents.
Sanjay, I
Yeah,
mean,
Sanjay can have a
I
look
hope
at
this answers your
work.
questions. There are
Yeah,
architecture firms who are exploring this idea, who are exploring this concept. Because I mean, the nature of architecture is such that you want something creative. So I'm not
exactly.
surprised that it's already been implemented.
And I know this would have costed them like crazy, because look at the interiors, look at the materials they've used. But then it's like how you people buy these paintings which are like lakhs and lakhs, and so might as well like make your whole house look like a painting. That's what I feel like. This
Absolutely.
looks like a painting. This really, and you see how soothing it is, because there's no straight line. Like, it's all curvy, linear, and so I'll come up to that point also. This is again
Sure.
a residence. So all these things. So you never know, like how you ask me if it is apply, like if I can apply this to simple designs. You can
Hmm.
definitely apply, because you can have an element which is parametrically done, like this sort
Hmm.
of an thing that they have done here. So
Hmm.
maybe they used parametric architecture and its principles to achieve the fabrication of it or something like that. So it could be
Hmm.
very small as a facade, or it could be the entire structure. It depends on your budget, maybe. So another
Understood.
example, which is this Sagrada Familia by Antonio Gaudi. He was
Hmm.
the first few people who did parametric architecture and not on a
Hmm.
computer. He did everything, that is all the principles that we study in
Hmm.
parametric architecture right now. It was all done
Hmm.
by Gaudi in 1800s, and he did them
Whoa.
using chains, like literally just chains and small pieces of weight. And
Are
he
you
made an
serious?
inverted, yeah, he made these like it is taking 126 years to build, and trust me, it is a marvel. Like, it should be a wonder of the world. I was in Barcelona in February, and I went
Hmm.
inside, and Like it is breathtaking, it gave me goosebumps, the entire architecture, because it is so difficult.
Absolutely.
Like you see these arches, it's not possible for a human to make it. Like that was my take from it. I went to like the top here. I was here in this one of the towers, and it is
Okay.
just, so these towers, they hold like these spiral staircase. So now
Hmm.
what, when Gaudi was designing it, it was all done like analog means. There was no computer because it was
There
all
wasn't
done
even
like,
CAD.
there was
Forget
no
about
CAD. Like
parametric.
he made like pieces. Everything was made by ceramic by him. He made everything
Okay.
in ceramic. He made small models, and then he was trying to get it realized at the site. He was living in one of these like rooms here. He got it built for himself, and so it was very interesting. This entire story about how Sagrada is done, and it took so
Hmm.
many years for people to, like, after he died, no one knew how to build this. The project was at
Hmm.
halt, and now they're finally, because of the parametric tools that are available, and because of
Hmm.
3D printing and robotic fabrication, you name it, like all the fancy and cool things, as people call it, like they just call it fancy and cool.
Hmm.
But trust me, there's a lot of logic that has gone into it, and that's why they're
Hmm.
able to actually complete this project. Then another part of parametric architecture is this green building. It's called Al Bahar Towers. It's somewhere in the
Hmm.
Gulf, and so you
Hmm.
see these origami. So this architect has used origami here, and
Hmm.
these panels are folding up and like folding in and out. So based on the
Hmm.
kind of sun requirement that they want for this building and the kind of air conditioning usage, the
Hmm.
pattern of this openings, they change. So this is all like
Okay.
done through automation. So there's a lot of robotics also that we do. Like I designed during my academics, I designed a cushion for a building. It would add as a panel, and that actually
Hmm.
decreased the temperature of the interiors by 2 degrees. We achieved that
Oh
as
wow.
like, as an academic project,
Just because of a parametric panel.
just because of a parametric panel. So we used a lot of robotics in that. We put all these automation and everything, and we achieved
Hmm.
it. So this is
Absolutely
how I was
superb.
showing you. This is a tower which is done parametrically. So
Hmm.
they've used an elliptical profile, and it's changing, like the curve is changing. So yeah, like this is how cool it is. And as one of the people commented that it can be applied to an urban scale. So there you
Hmm.
go. Like this is a very futuristic concept, but like even for games, like you said, we can apply it to games and make these cool animations for it, for visuals, and so we can
Honestly,
use
I am no architect, but I would love to play PUBG or Call of Duty in a city like
this
this.
in a city like that. And so it's damn cool. Like everything, it looks amazing. And the best part is it does have a reason. Like there is a reason why these buildings are small or why this is so tall. So they have used like a lot of logics that are going in. Maybe this is like a major junction. That's why it's a
Hmm.
taller building, or like whatever the logic was behind this city. So this is
Hmm.
how like parametric architecture, it's scalable, like from a small product to a city. This is how
So
scalable, and this is how,
you use a phrase called computational architecture
yeah,
in the slideshow. So
yes.
what do you refer to when you
So
mean
basically,
computational architecture?
basically, yeah. So basically, parametric is a term which was coined by Patrick Schumacher, architect Patrick Schumacher. But
Hmm.
whatever we are doing, and so all this becomes and forms a niche of computational architecture, because we are basically computing, like through these computer tools and everything. We are computing how a design would be realized and how you would actually design it. So we are starting from a
Okay.
dot and actually making the building out of it. So all this entire process is called, and like this forms a niche of computational architecture under the
So
whole like
we
architecture.
have a question for you from Meet Shah. What do
Yeah,
you mean when you say logic? When you were, I guess he's referring to when you were talking about the city. Is it in
the city.
general sense of logic or some sort of code or parameter that applies to this form of design?
So I'll explain you, like how I showed you a building, right? I showed you a
Hmm.
parametric tower. It was 40
Hmm.
floors, and then I just changed the number to 60. So basically, in
Hmm.
parametric architecture, we work with a lot of domains and a lot of series. So
Okay.
and since it's a scalable thing, when I'm designing, let's say if I'm designing a vase, I'll call it
Hmm.
ki, theek hai, we have something called a vase. It's gonna be like
Hmm.
a 1 feet tall thing, maybe, or a smaller thing. So that becomes like a very very basic idea for a product design. When we are designing a city, we start calling it FAR. FAR is nothing but something that like all the architects would understand this, that FAR
Hmm.
tells you how tall or short your building can be. So we start
Okay.
applying those kind of logics into the city, and that's what
Okay.
like if you see here that there is so much of open space here. You can see the white
Hmm.
spaces. So
Hmm.
this is done because they want like a more open space near the junctions. And when you
Okay.
go into the interiors of this space, so
Hmm.
you can see there is an opening which is inside. So all this
Hmm.
can be done parametrically. If I want to, let's say I build a logic which says
Hmm.
that near my nodes, I want the buildings to be on the interior and I want bigger plazas. And when I go
Hmm.
like beyond a certain level, let's say beyond a 750 meters distance, I want them
Hmm.
to start forming outside and I want a courtyard in the center. So this is
Okay.
how the logics start building up. There's a lot of research that we do when we are building logics.
Hmm.
But now,
Hmm.
like immediately, like in a second, I told you that okay, this is the logic. I want a plaza outside or inside. So that becomes my logic. So
Okay.
that's how you
So,
start
Meet,
building up.
I hope this answers your question. So she's referring to basic logic of space utilization, of wind, of sunlight, of mobility, of the number
Yeah,
of
anything
people.
like whatever factor you have. Yeah,
Absolutely. So let's continue.
going.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, for example, like this is one architect, Dinara Casco. She is a computational designer. So, what she
Hmm.
does is she 3D prints cake molds, and this is the kind of cake. She's a pastry chef now, and this is the kind
Oh,
of work she does. So, this was the mold that she made, and 3D
wow.
printed. She used all these silicone molds and everything, and this is the
Okay.
output. Like how amazing! And you can check out her work of Dinara Casco. It's amazing. Like the way,
Honestly, for a lack of better
yeah.
word, all the phrases which you've used, computation
Yeah,
and all that, the output of
yeah.
this really looks natural.
I know, yeah. Yeah, it definitely does. It
It looks
definitely
really
does.
nature.
So I'll tell you what we do in computational architecture is we actually study a lot of these elements from nature. We study a lot of biology, like biological evolutions and everything. And there is a niche under computational architecture which is called the it's basically evolutionary algorithms. Okay, it sounds like a
Okay.
big ass word, but it's like okay. So under evolutionary architecture, you can actually study the like how nature works or how how those principles works, and you can start applying them to your architecture. So there are tools which are created by various architects, and we end up
Hmm.
using them to, let's say, like for example, this city. So maybe they
Hmm.
have used something like that, or I'll
Hmm.
show you another model.
Hmm.
First, I'll cover this. This is another products designed by Zahadi. So I am like
Hmm.
very sure that it was just one definition which was used to
Hmm.
create, these 7 8 designs here. Like I showed you in terms of the parametric tower, it is scalable, the rotation
Hmm.
is changing, it is scaling up like down from
Hmm.
here, it is scaling more from here, the profile is
Hmm.
changing. So everything can be done parametrically, like again with this ceiling lamps by Zahadi. So
Wow.
or so now when we were talking about biological or
So
natures.
before
Yeah,
you go forward,
yeah,
Sai Sanjay has a very interesting question, and I
yes,
think I had this question to you when I was talking to you before the interview as well. Considering
okay,
the middle class market in India, what would
yeah.
be the design cost involved if we were to take parametric products to the middle class of our country? I think that's a very interesting question.
That's a very interesting question. See, again, design cost is something like it depends on how complex you want it to be, how much scale you want it to be. Like, let's say,
Hmm.
for example, I built a table recently, and
Hmm.
if I just count the like the building cost of it, how much the materials and everything costed me, it was
Hmm.
literally in 8,000. I made a table. I'll show a video. I have like this time lapse of it later in the slides. So I'll show you
Okay.
how cool, like how easily I made it. And yeah, definitely when it comes to design, again, if it's a star architect, he would charge like a crazy amount for it. And if it's a starter, he would charge. So architecture fees is something which is very subjective, and it keeps
Hmm.
changing when you change the geography of the designer. So this is
And I
something which
think
can't be very specific as if
absolutely,
you
and
say.
I think Sai Sanjay, to answer your question, right? As she mentioned early on, unlike a lot of other forms of architecture design, with parametric you can create templates. You can
Yeah.
create templates wherein, for the first iteration, say it's a furniture design, For the first design, you're investing heavily, and after that, customization and all that, I don't think will be that expensive. I mean, what
Yeah.
are your thoughts on this, Suvarna?
Yeah, definitely. It won't be expensive because now you have a logic which is built. So basically,
Mm-hmm.
you can start, spread out the entire, like if you're talking about fees, let's say, and five of my clients want me, or like let's say we take the ceiling lamp example by Zahadi. So all these
Mm-hmm.
four lamps are different, but the kind
Mm-hmm.
of effort that I've put, it is maybe for the first one, it took me a lot of effort to actually come up with something of this sort, and then the
Okay.
other three iterations could have been just by moving a, let's say I want to reduce the cost, so I reduce the scale of it. And the object is now
Okay.
smaller. That reduced my cost.
Mm-hmm.
So that was
Mm-hmm.
from a designer's point of view, it was not a lot of effort that went in. So maybe you can start, like if let's say if it's a very rough number, it's like hypothetically if I'm charging like 10,000 for a lamp cut design, I can
Mm-hmm.
spread it out over all the four designs, and or
Correct.
start getting to know your market, get your word out, and maybe then you can understand how it all worked out.
And
Because in India
honestly,
it's very new, actually very new in India. There's only very few people who are making these things, but yeah, they are
Mhm.
doing it. It's not like it's not happening in India, it is being done.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sai, to answer your question further, uh, one of the things is because parametric architecture uses a lot of digital manufacturing. I
Yeah.
think, with CNC routers and laser cutters and
Yes.
3D printers, I genuinely feel that, at least in terms of the middle class context, look, India, they spend money. They may not spend money on a lot of things, but they do spend money on two things. One is their home, and the other one is weddings. So, so I
Definitely,
don't.
definitely.
I genuinely feel that there is scope for it. It's just that it's a matter of communication, showing something unique. Because even if someone doesn't want an entire house in parametric way, I'm sure they would want to have some products,
Yeah, like I
some
was talking to you,
elements.
Yeah, like I was talking to you yesterday. So we
Mhm.
can basically like instead of buying a sculpture or something like that, you can maybe if you
Mhm.
want, you can have like the ceiling lamp, and it would be like the highlight of that room. Like, look how amazing this looks. Or in the case
Mhm.
that I built a table, so that is like the major attraction of that room. So it in itself it forms like this, a sculptural thing that you're building, because again it looks complex. It's not like just straight lines and a cube or a cuboid or whatever. It's something very different. So people are ready to invest into different. Like at least in India, people are willing to pay for something which is which is out of the box. They don't want the
Okay.
same repetitions again. So
Oh yeah, 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 absolutely. I have actually seen that. Yeah, yeah, please
yeah.
continue.
So, like we were talking about biology, so or
Hmm.
nature, not even biology. I'll just call it nature. So this is
Hmm.
soap film. We all know how
Okay.
soap bubbles get formed. So
Yep.
basically, this was done when there was no like. This is done by Frey Otto. It's an experiment done by him. So what he has done
Hmm.
is he has put these two circular film, like these are metal pieces, circular metal
Hmm.
pieces, and he's created like this soap film over it, and this
Hmm.
actually got realized into this stadium. This I visited in Munich
Okay.
last year. So you see like these and these were done like back in early 1900s, and it was amazing because this soap film formed the basis of this stadium. And
Wow.
the entire shingles, all these panels that you see, so it is so stable that it can actually move under
Hmm.
wind. It moves and it doesn't become unstable, and it's all like just
Interesting.
tensile structures. So these tensile structures, so you see like one more application of parametric architecture which is into
Hmm.
tensile structures. So this
Absolutely.
again
Wow.
is like really amazing the way, and it's a huge stadium. It was for the Olympics and it was amazingly huge.
So I have
Another
another
application.
interesting question. I have
Yes.
another interesting question from you from medical studies. Medical studies asks us, please tell any online place where parametric architecture is available. So
Okay.
I don't think there'll be a site where you can just get parametric architecture.
No.
Although I do think you can start learning basic skills.
Yeah,
I
you
mean, I
can
don't know. I think
actually
Suvarna will be a
see.
better person
Yeah,
to
I'll
answer this.
answer this. Yeah. So basically, the whole point why I'm saying logic building and why I'm saying customization is because it is so like these all these complex items that you see. you won't even believe, like maybe the logic behind it would be so simple and would be derived from nature, and it's very easy. Like once you start understanding logic, it's very easy to make these. And you should, like, for a parametric architecture, at least there is one thing that I've learned is never go online and look for a script, because that would just not do justice to your design, and you would never
Okay.
understand what you have done. Like till date, I
Okay.
have never copied a script from online. Like past 3 years, I've been indulging into this parametric architecture, and I've always created my own visual codes and everything that I've done, like how I showed you. I can, like, with the
Hmm.
blink of an eye, I can again, like, regenerate that definition, because I never copied it. I understood the logic behind it. So that's how
Absolutely.
important it is to understand what you're doing. Because in the end, again, they'll ask you, like in first year of architecture, they ask you, why is this line there? Again, they're gonna ask you, why is this line there? And then you should have an answer for it.
The
So
difference would be, instead of a geometric line, it would be lines of code.
yeah, lines of code. Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
I hope that answers your question. Let's move on. So, as you were
Yeah.
mentioning, some,
So this
yeah.
is this is like there is a fashion designer work by Iris
Hmm.
Van Harpen. So she uses
Hmm.
a lot of parametric tools. I won't say architecture now. So that's why I said,
Hmm.
like, it's very we can't call it parametric architecture. It's more like a computational designer. I won't call myself a parametric architect anymore, because I'm doing
Okay.
so many things in so many scales. So I would rather
Hmm.
call myself a like a computational designer, and indulge into like whatever scale. Like for that, for example, like the baking, the molds that I showed you, the baking molds, I would love to, like, someday start like, trying my hands on those. So like for a fashion designer, let's say they want to indulge into this sort of a thing. So you see the different kind of designs, it looks so futuristic. But yeah, so these are again like a product of using these computational tools.
Hmm.
Or if
Absolutely.
we go, like, dive into larger items, like if I go into robotic fabrication, so this
Hmm.
entire pavilion, it is
Hmm.
fabricated within like these four walls at a university in Germany, and this was
Hmm.
the final result. This is how,
Oh
so
my
they do
God.
like a result, and these
Is
are
that
done
real or a
like,
rendering? I
I
genuinely
think
want to
it's
know, is
it's a
that
real,
real or
it's a
is it
real,
a
it's a
rendering?
real, it's a real image, and they've done this
Wow.
using carbon fibers, carbon
Oh.
fibers and glass fibers. So it's like super strong, because glass fibers are also very strong, and you know about carbon fibers. They are like one of the strongest elements that you can use. So they've used like two robotic arms, and they have developed this entire thing.
So,
And you can see a
I,
drone also there in picture. So
continuing this conversation,
yeah,
now that you mentioned about structures, this is one of my main questions. When I had seen Zaha Hadid's documentary, or when I had
yeah.
seen some photos of parametric architecture, I was blown away, and I genuinely would feel that, okay, it's just a render or concept. But then, when I found out they were real, I would really want to understand, in terms of structural stability, how does a parametric architect ensure
So
that?
yeah. So basically, when you're working with parametric architecture, you need to work with a structural engineer side by side who understands these complex structures. So, for example, there is this firm called Arup. They do a lot of computational designing, and so they are the ones who actually, I think Arup is the one who made these Beijing, the bird's nest in Beijing, or
Oh,
Baroha
where is
Pearl.
this
There
one
are
based out
two or three engineers, structural engineers, and
of? Okay.
so these are the people who are actually helping architects. Earlier it used to be like, no, it looks too complex, how do we build this? But now there are people who are, matching up the, like, engineers. They would definitely, like, architects can't run away from engineers. They need engineers to help them realize all these complex structures. So that's where
Okay.
we get these big firms. And
Okay.
yeah, that's how they are built. And especially, like, if you go to firms like Frank Gehry and everyone, they have their
Hmm.
own structural softwares which they use, and realize their buildings, like Guggenheim museums in Bilbao and everything. So it is
Hmm.
amazing the way they have paneled everything. And
Okay.
it's just the scale is, and even the scale of the building, it's very overwhelming, because these, again, like, I feel these are more like a sculptural item that they're trying to put. Like Bilbao was nothing before Guggenheim came there, and after
Okay.
Guggenheim museum, the entire city like lit up. So that was the driving factor for that city, and it looks absolutely amazing. Again, I was on my Spain trip, I saw the museum, and it was like out of words for it, the way they have come, like,
Absolutely.
realized the shapes. Yeah.
I mean, makes a lot of sense. Like, so
Yeah.
what are we seeing here?
So this is basically one of my academic projects. I wanted to show you how the process was. So to
Okay.
build this sort of a bench, it was a parametric
Mm-hmm.
bench that we created, we designed.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the
Mm-hmm.
amount of logics and code, all these purple boxes that you see, and
Mm-hmm.
these. So this is the kind of logic that went behind making this
Okay.
bench. And when I was talking about iterations, so using that same code, I can make these iterations. So
Okay.
basically, and so you see these profiles. These are the basically anthropometrical seating profiles that we generated,
Okay.
and which was then used to create these different versions of the same street furniture. And then
Mm-hmm.
we created this. So basically, this was a render for our furniture. So our task
Wow.
was to reignite this entire 15 feet wide footpath that we had, that we chose as our design, like for our concept. And this is how we
Mm-hmm.
realized it. So you see, like, out of these like 12, 15 options that we created, again,
Mm-hmm.
I just had to change the profile. Like, this has a flat profile, this like you
Mm-hmm.
see in the ends, or
Mm-hmm.
somewhere you want like a steeper profile, so it's going like even steep. So
Mm-hmm.
this is how the process works. And this is very rough. What I'm telling you is, like, just the basics of it. Because
Mm-hmm.
obviously, like, when you're trying to develop a script like this, these are all visual
Mm-hmm.
codes. When you're
Mm-hmm.
developing a script like this, now if I say
Mm-hmm.
that you take it from online and you just change the numbers, you cannot.
Mm-hmm.
Because how would you know why? Like, let's say I delete like this one component from here, or if you're downloading the definition and you don't know what this one component did, and it's not there in the definition, you will go bonkers
Absolutely.
because you wouldn't know what is happening in the rest of the
So
definition.
unlike a lot of other designs, basically every line
Yeah,
of code or every block of code is important here.
it's important. Yes, definitely. If I
So
remove like
I
one item, it will just go off. Like, it won't work.
absolutely. So medical studies has another question. Okay,
Yeah.
basically it's a follow up on the answer which we gave. So this is a
Okay.
different question from the topic you mentioned. Which is the best site to buy parametric furniture online? So that's that's a very interesting question. So what's your answer to that, Swarna? If someone wants to buy, they're like, ठीक है, आपका सुन लिया सब बात, अभी खरीदना है मेरे
Uh,
को, तो where can they buy?
See, if you are talking about scripts, you can
No, not
absolutely
buy,
search
not scripts.
the
They want to
products.
buy
The
furniture,
products.
the products.
Furniture,
Yes.
I really don't think you will find it like that online. Like, and
Oh,
especially in India, it's very difficult.
can
It's
you
very
make some and give
difficult.
them? I mean, guys, if you have any doubts, I've put Suvarna's Instagram profile here. You can follow her and send her a message. Maybe she can make some furniture
Yeah, I
and
can
give you.
definitely make it for you. Just follow my
Absolutely.
Instagram page. That's the website for it.
We have another question for you. Very interesting question
Yeah.
because you're talking about this topic right now. What is the
Yeah.
scope in infrastructure and how to utilize this skill in the new trend?
So,
Very interesting.
like, let's say if we're talking about infrastructure, so we have done a lot of transit-oriented developments also. And
Mm-hmm.
again, it all dials back to the logic that you're using. If I want the buildings to be like much more dense, like, so I had this very interesting conversation with actually with my father. So we were talking
Mm-hmm.
about how can this help in actually plotting these like large lands, or if you're developing a new city. So we can
Mm-hmm.
even use parametric architecture, and we've actually used it in our academic projects. I've put up the
Mm-hmm.
links for it in the, I
Mm-hmm.
think it's there. So you can go check
Mm-hmm.
it out. There is a hybrid housing that I've done. There is another city that I've designed for my thesis. Right now I'm doing a completely, like, it's called a multi-sensory city. So wherein I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to incorporate your senses and how it can
Mm-hmm.
affect the mental health. So if a city is well designed, and if it is actually, like, if, like, positively affecting your mind, and if it's visually appealing, and if it's nice to look at, and whatever, like, and if it's nice to move around also. So
Mm-hmm.
how would it affect the mental health of the people? Like, in Europe, the
Okay.
cities are so amazing. Like, if you're walking for 5 minutes, it won't matter because it's so nice to walk. And if I ask you to walk for 5 minutes in India, you would be like, no, it's okay. I'll take my scooter or I'll take my car. Even if you know there is no parking for you, but
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna still take your automobile and
Mm-hmm.
not walk around. So walkable cities is something that we keep designing, and we keep hearing back and forth in parametric architecture, and that's how we
Mm-hmm.
can start developing an entire infrastructure for a city. and these transit
Okay.
oriented, whatever you say, we can actually, because you should not think of it like, something alien. It is something to aid you into designing. It's just a tool which you're using to create a much more informed
So
design.
I understand that, but say if I were to rephrase the question,
Yeah.
what are the practical applications in infrastructure for parametric design? If I were to ask you that, like practically, what do you think makes economic sense, makes
It
design
would.
sense?
It would, because again we
So
see
according to
like,
you, like what are those sort of projects? It can be say buildings, or it can be, I don't know, stations or airports. Something specific practically which you think can really benefit through parametric architecture.
see, again, like I was talking about plotting a site, or if you're developing a new city, or there's a lot of redevelopment that also keeps happening. So again, like
Hmm.
if I'm able to make a more informed decision out of this, if I'm using a
Hmm.
much more logical expression, because
Hmm.
and if I'm able to analyze it environmentally and structurally or whatever, like
Hmm.
if I go back to a slide, I'll show the city again.
So
And
I want to understand in the
yeah,
sense that from a traditional urban planner's approach,
yeah.
why would a parametric architecture approach be better?
See, because again, like I told you, it is all about iterations and logic building. So when I
Hmm.
have, okay, so designing one thing and and getting 10 options of the same thing and choosing the one which is best out of the 10 things, which one do you
Hmm.
think is better? So it is
Okay.
always like, so if I have like, let's say if this is one design that an urban designer did by
Hmm.
using AutoCAD and all, only the 3D tools like generic design. And if I have like a palette of options for this, in which the heights are
Hmm.
changing or maybe the courtyards are changing, and since it's an urban project and I want, like, let's say I want something which is environmental friendly and it is giving you all the appropriate shadows in the city and everything, like whatever you want, and if I
Hmm.
use those analytical logics on the 10 options and then optimize my design, so that will definitely, like, it will be a longer, lengthier process and maybe an expensive one, but it would, in the end, it would give you something which is much more like, well thought of than a generic. And again, it again depends on the people, like if they don't want to indulge into it, because there is a big debate, like a lot of people think
So
like
I
it's
feel
a
I
waste of
feel one
doing.
of the main advantages based on how you've described and based on what I've understood
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that the main advantage is you can iterate rapidly a lot
Yeah,
of different
rapidly. Yeah.
ideas.
Yeah.
I think the fact which you just mentioned that a lot more designs, it may be longer. I think no, I think it's going to be shorter because you're coding
No, no,
an urban plan.
the logic building is definitely time taking. And for a like this,
Absolutely, I
yeah,
understand that,
yeah,
but say from a concept, from an urban planner's perspective,
yeah,
the urban planner will essentially what will end up happening is he'll create a version, he'll have a concept, but say
yeah.
someone asks him, see this concept you've optimized X, can you give me a concept where you optimized Y?
Why?
He'll retake the
Exactly.
entire design cycle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
But in
definitely. He could do
parametric,
that.
you invest that time initially, and
Yeah,
after that you tweak your parameters as you mentioned, right? It's all based
yeah.
on variables and parameters. I think
Variables, yeah.
that fact that you can iterate so rapidly on
Yeah.
different parameters, I don't know,
Yeah.
like for example, say
No,
right
it,
now work from home is very
yeah.
important. So you're talking about a study desk, right?
Yeah.
Having an ergonomic study desk. Now, in a traditional design, they design the ergonomic study desk based on some basic anthropometric measures.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
with parametric, because you can tweak it, you can ask the person, hey, what's your height? What's your weight?
Was,
And I'll
yeah.
give you a desk made for you.
Yeah, definitely, that's how easy it becomes. So that's why I said, like, it only the process of giving the first design is time taking, because that's when we are
Mhm.
developing this entire system. And now, like,
Mhm.
let's say I have this entire definition, right? So I just
Mhm.
need to change, maybe let's say this bench in this particular screen that you see, this is placed
Mhm.
on this curve. If I want, I
Okay.
can immediately change this curve and I can put it
Mhm.
here, and I have like a design, another design with me. So this is how this is
Exactly.
what rapid prototyping is. So this entire
Yep.
process definitely took maybe like a month, because when I
Mhm.
did the first furniture, we were in our first semester of college, and we had like
Mhm.
roughly 8 weeks for this project. So this was a
Mhm.
disaster, because we had like a week's class on Grasshopper and Rhino, and we were asked to do a project on it, and we were clueless. But yeah, it was a
Okay.
teamwork, and me and my friend, we sat and we built up these logics. So only the
Mhm.
logic took time, and then Like trust me, these the 12 options that I've showed, these didn't take time
Mhm.
because I just had to change like the connections and change the numbers or maybe something, whatever I had variables in this, I just had to change those variables. This entire
Okay.
project is there on my issue profile. You can have a look there.
This is the
So
link to our issue profile, guys. I'm showing it in the video. But yeah, please move on. Yeah.
yeah. So another thing that I was talking about was fabrication. Now that you have designed, how do you fabricate it? So this is
Hmm.
something that we have been doing since day one. So this shows like how we need these plywoods and how we need to connect them. So how do you keep it stable? And what kind of length you have, how many slices. So these are called slices, all these individual members. So this is how the parts would be assembled. I have a video of a table that I've done in a similar manner, which I'll show you.
Sure. Can you show us that video? Oh wow, what is
Yeah, I'll
this?
show it later. So this is another thing that I was talking about, how to make an informed design. So this is for
Hmm.
a housing project that I did, and this
Okay.
shows me how the environmental analysis is done. So basically, the
Hmm.
design was done through Grasshopper and everything, and then I did
Hmm.
an environmental analysis. I have the wind chart formulas here. I have my sun radiation. I have my sunlight
Hmm.
hours. Everything. So all these are very helpful because now what is happening is I am thinking of something, then I'm building up the logic, then I'm making
Hmm.
that building, I'm making iterations of it, and then I'm finally analyzing it also. And all these can be done using like in a single workflow, and that is how parametric architecture is like actually done. That is the workflow
Hmm.
that we follow, and that's why we know that okay, yeah, so at least through the computer simulations, and we can get like very accurate readings from it, because I'm putting
Hmm.
like this was done in Pune. This project was
Hmm.
designed for Pune, so I've put like information for Pune's weather, and I know that the sun is gonna be from here, like whatever directions. So this is how
Wow.
environmental analysis is done on the buildings. This is the table
Wow.
that I was talking. So basically, like this is a very rough draft that I gave to the fabricator. So this is the
Hmm.
table, and I created another table next to. So this is the kind of fabrication drawings that go to the CNC person,
Hmm.
and everything has
So,
to be
for those of
numbered.
you who don't know, CNC router is basically a 2.5D drilling machine wherein X, Y, and Z axis you can cut flat sheets of plywood. That really all these jalis, nameplates, a
Yeah.
lot of different simple things. I'm like what you make. What Suvarna is showing here is what goes to a fabricator who owns that machine. Correct me if I'm wrong, Suvarna.
Yeah, no, that's correct. So basically, what happens is now I know that there are like 25 pieces of these shapes, which to us it would look the same. Like there's hardly any difference. But when you start building it, you would know that okay, immediately, like if number 5 is replaced by number 7, you would know because the
Hmm.
whole shape would change. So I
Hmm.
got this. Like this is the kind of drawings that was sent out to the fabricators. They would
Hmm.
CNC cut this for me, and then we
Okay.
assembled the parts on site. So this was the first piece. We have the
Wow.
center bar, which is actually
Okay.
keeping everything in place, and we have put
Okay.
fevicol and nailed down all these pieces together. So I'll tell
Okay.
you, like, so basically the designing would have taken, let's say, 5 or 6 days, because
Hmm.
there's a lot that went into it. Because you don't want, like, since it's a shape, which is a complex geometry, I didn't want the glass to fall off, because,
Hmm.
and I wanted it to be like, there were budget constraints. Like earlier when I started the design, the table was costing me 15,000, and then when I
Hmm.
finished it, when I was done with the entire design process, it
Hmm.
costed me roughly around 8K for a center table and a side table. So that's how
Wow.
different, like how I could optimize. Another term which is very often like used in architecture, in parametric architecture, is optimization. If the client
Hmm.
is not able to pay, I can roughly like modify the table a little, and I can make it like in a cheaper cost for him. So this was how it was like made on site, and then later this was polished. Let's just
So I
wait
have
for
an
the video.
interesting question.
Yeah.
They ask basically this skill, is it used in ready built up products and prefabricated items? So
If
basically, like this same skill, right? Say a normal carpenter is trying to do. Is it easy to explain to someone like him?
Yeah, see, this one I got it done, and it was very difficult actually. I won't call it an easy process, because
Hmm.
first of all I had to explain him that okay, you need to fix these pieces together. So that itself was like for him, and this is a project that was done in Varanasi, which is even more far away from bigger cities like Mumbai, Delhi, and they don't know these fancy things. So especially in a city like Varanasi, it was quite difficult, but it was executed all fine. I just had to pay a little attention to what he's doing, and
Okay.
yeah, it was not that hard actually. Again, you need to know how it is done, so you need to know how it is designed, and you need to know
Hmm.
how to actually get it made into a, like, realized it into a physical object.
Absolutely.
That's
Wow.
why
This
I
is
keep
this.
stressing on the logics and the fabrication. So these are the two, like,
Absolutely.
this is just the assembled pieces. It doesn't have a tabletop yet, and
Hmm.
these will be polished into this brown color. So again,
Hmm.
like, we can polish it however we want, and it's very
Hmm.
difficult. Like, if I say that you have to build this manually and take a piece of plywood and start cutting pieces, no one can do
Hmm.
it. Like, you won't get it accurate. No one get the centers accurate, and
Yep.
all the pieces are shaped differently. But then again, they would end up mixing them up because,
Okay.
like, trust me, when I got it from the fabricator, the pieces, the
Okay.
slices, to my
Okay.
to the side, in between
Mhm.
that also we lost, like, we got confused with two pieces because the fabricator couldn't get the numbers right, and he wrote
Oh,
it manually, and he messed up with 22 and 25. So we were struggling so hard to get it fixed, because now there is a certain curve, like, it's going like that, and suddenly it's like the curve changed. So we didn't know what to do. It
wait.
was
So I
like,
wanna understand this honestly,
yeah, yeah,
Swarna.
yeah,
For furniture, if it was so complex, I'm just
yeah.
trying to imagine for an actual building how it would be. Like
It is
honestly.
like, yeah, because Zahadi, the buildings that she does, so that's where optimization comes into place. Like, for example, I don't have a visual for that building, but
Hmm.
what she has done is there were around, I think, more than 1,000 panels that had to be used. So she used
Okay.
these parametric and computational tools and tried to get as many identical panels as she could. So she
Okay.
iterated the building's shape a little, that would not be seen, like, that would be very difficult to judge by the public who's seeing it. But
Hmm.
when it comes to the optimization of the shapes, maybe like she got like 800 similar pieces and 200 pieces which were not the same. So that's how
Correct.
you can start optimizing it. Like, this, since this was a very experimental furniture that I've done, maybe like in
Hmm.
future, if now I know that okay, it's quite difficult to make it, maybe I
Hmm.
can just take the same profile and rotate it and just put a centerpiece there, and it would still do the job that I want, because
So
it's
we have
just
a
a
very
profile
interesting
rotated.
comment. We have
Yeah.
a very interesting comment. So she's very creative. She needs a good team of workers with latest tools. I completely agree. I mean, based on what I'm seeing
Definitely.
right here, right? You cannot pull off something like this without a team of good workers. Like you need a
No,
specific team,
definitely
a
not.
proper
Definitely.
workshop. You basically need
Yeah.
a digital
Yeah.
manufacturing setup, like CNC machines and laser cutters and 3D
Yeah, yeah.
printers.
Like, so, yeah, yeah. So if I take this to a person who is, like, reluctant to understand what this new kind of architecture is or what this new kind of furniture is, like, I contacted two CN. I think I'm done with my presentation. I'll just go back to my screen.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
So if I
Hmm.
talk about, let's, yeah. So if I talk about, let's say, the fabrication process that I followed here in Varanasi, I spoke to
Hmm.
multiple people who do this CNC cutting. So one challenge was no one was understanding what it is. They're like, "ये कैसे बनेगा? ये क्या बना रखा है?" ऐसा. This is the comment because they don't even know what this is, what the entire
Correct.
genre of architecture this is. And then there was this one person who was actually, like, a lot into this kind of architecture, and he was
Hmm.
trying a lot. He was trying out these furniture, and he was seeing these images on Google and just making them. So he was very
Hmm.
like, okay, I'll build this for you, or I'll get it cut for you. So that's why
Okay.
you need like-minded people, and
Mhm.
you need skilled labor. Definitely, you need skilled labor. Yeah.
Absolutely. But I want to actually see this. Have you completed this particular furniture which you just showed us?
No, I haven't, because there is still a lot of work left. It got shut because of the COVID lockdown. But
Oh,
yeah,
that's sad.
once it's done, I'll definitely share it on my para page. Yeah.
Absolutely. Great. So, guys, please, please, please don't forget to follow her on Para Arc Design Studio. I have shared her Instagram handle. Now, continuing the conversation, you spoke about
Yeah.
furniture, you spoke about
Yeah.
infrastructure. I want to
Yeah.
talk about something which you may not have expected. I want to know if parametric architecture concepts can be applied into affordable housing, which is one of the most important problems which India is facing right now.
Yeah. So it
The reason I'm
actually
asking
can
you this
be.
question is the reason I'm asking you this question is you showed us shapes which are very, very unique, but the principle
Yeah,
of being parametric, right? uh, I'm guessing that allows you to tweak designs very rapidly, which will
yeah,
minimize the design cost incredibly. And if
it
that is
can.
the case, I genuinely want to understand this. Say I'm coming from an affordable housing approach, right? I like you're talking about not one or two houses. You're talking about, I don't know, like lakhs of houses. I mean,
Lots of
I'm sure
houses,
you
yeah.
know Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. They have like 20
Yeah,
lakh houses, 30 lakh
yeah,
houses. They have these monolithic structures and all that, right? So say I want to get creativity in those sort of modular systems and parametric architecture, at least based on my understanding, it's making a lot of sense because you're
yeah,
basically changing numbers after you develop the initial design, of course.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want to understand what's your opinion on that.
So definitely, like it helps you because again, like as I said, if I have a site of let's say 1 acre and physically I'm able to plot it into roughly 15 or 20 houses, and if I'm
Mm-hmm.
using parametric architecture and if I'm using a lot of logic based design, and I try to plot it into, if I'm able to achieve even 25 instead of 20 houses in that area, I'm
Mm-hmm.
somewhere down the line I'm cutting the cost. Right,
True,
and it
true, true.
doesn't, like parametric architecture need not be always just used with only crazy complex looking structures. It can be
Mm-hmm.
used for very simple, like just for example, if I want to let's say create a block model of an entire space that
Mm-hmm.
you want, like if I want let's say 50 houses in in an area that I've been given, so I would
Mm-hmm.
definitely use parametric architecture and try to develop a logic using which I can create let's say 55 buildings also there. That is
Okay.
how you can make use of parametric architecture, because now I know that I have to give a certain set of roads there. I know I have to give a certain height there. So there is
Mm-hmm.
a lot of okay, one more thing that happens is when you're doing a like project physically, there's a lot of stakeholders which try to tell you that एक घर हमको दे देना, एक घर इधर चला जाए, like all that things happen. So that
Yep,
is the
yep.
truth of the Indian side. Not even Indian, like I think anywhere and everywhere that is what happens. Everyone wants their share of work that they've done there. So why
Mm-hmm.
not use these tools and start developing on something which is again like giving you an affordable housing. So in that
Mm-hmm.
case, you won't go till the geometry designing of the house itself in itself. We can
Mm-hmm.
go till the extent of designing the entire urban layout of it, of that
Okay.
space, and you
Okay.
just stop there and then you go ahead with a normal architecture. Or let's say if I have 5 options of affordable housing houses, which are
Mm-hmm.
like maybe a 1 bhk, a 2 bhk, or a 1 rk, like multiple options. And then
Mm-hmm.
for that I can again create multiple iterations by just plugging in those houses into those layouts.
Hmm.
So again, you
Okay.
can use it. So my building is designed physically in a different software or whatever, physically designed, whatever, however it is. And I can
Yep.
just start laying out that this is the area that should be a 3 BHK, then this is the area that should be 2 BHK. Or if I want, now immediately if the client tells me that, nahi, I want 10 houses of 3 BHK and I don't want like 15 houses of 2 BHK, I just need to change a number that don't replicate it to 15 houses, replicate it to only 10 houses. And that's it. It will place
Yep.
that house, that affordable house, into 10. So here the cost, in a way, you are making it very efficient when you're designing your buildings.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what. So that's one of the difference I'm guessing with parametric architecture when you compare it with your normal architecture. It's essentially right the way accounting changed when accounting softwares came in. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
instead of
definitely.
doing everything on books, you started doing everything on spreadsheets or
Yeah,
ERP systems. Although I'm guessing even across the globe, this is very early. I genuinely feel what you just mentioned, that this sort of customization and tweaking which is possible through parametric architecture. I
yeah,
mean, when you're thinking about it, if you are able to develop these sort of templates, if you're able to develop these sort of home templates or furniture templates or product templates, I think it even makes economic sense. The fact that you're associating it with something, oh, it's going to be expensive, I don't think that's true. I mean, I would love to know what our audience thinks about this in the comment section below. But
yeah.
what's your thoughts on this, Suvarna? What do you think? Is this where architecture is at? That turning
Uh,
point between
It is there because again, like if I talk about it, we can go as far as like go back in history up to Antonio Gaudi, who never
Mhm.
used a straight line in his buildings. Like Barcelona is full of his works, and it's
Okay.
incredible the way, like, imagine 100 years back, someone has actually realized and thought of something like that, which is very close to nature, and actually built it out. So the
Mhm.
fact that it was done 100 years back makes me actually wonder that why aren't we doing it now? Because again, everything has become so economical. They just
Mhm.
want a set rule. Like if you're doing a government project, like I've worked on few government projects during my internships, they
Mhm.
have a set rule book, and they give you that, okay, this housing needs to be like this. Make an AutoCAD plan of it, increase the house, and give the plan. That's how the work is done. And if you go to these so again it comes back to policy making, right? Because
Mhm.
like the government has to invest somewhere or the other, they have to invest. And if you go to like Guggenheim Museum, all these buildings, they're all like commissioned by the government. The government is open enough. So like let's not go
Okay.
there, because again it becomes like a very political, or I don't know. But yeah, it can be done. It is very it's all about how educated you are in terms of parametric architecture, and how open you are towards accepting it as the new trend. And it's not even a new trend, it's like very old if you think
It's
about
an
it.
old trend, exactly.
Like it's an old
Now
trend,
that
yeah.
you mentioned compliance, right? Compliance of
Yeah.
buildings and all that, I genuinely want to understand this. Why can't compliance be part of one of the lines of code or block of code which you work on?
No, we
Like,
do
I'm just trying
that.
to
We
understand.
do that. So if like how I spoke about FAR and ground coverage, so these are the bylaws that we get from the government when I'm designing a
Okay.
housing project, let's say, or a tower. So I am plugging in all those information also. So it is
Okay.
complying everything. Like if they say that you need, like for example, if I'm taking daylight as an example, so
Mm-hmm.
for all these green buildings and all the griha work that people are doing, so for that they have set that it needs a certain percentage of daylight. So I can find all that information in my parametric architectural design buildings also, and I can, in the end, I can apply it and say that yes, I am achieving that much of daylight. So yeah, it is very much complying with it. It's just a matter of fact that how much you have explored it and how much you are able to imply and implement in your designs.
Absolutely. I mean, I hope that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue to my next question, which is, we spoke about compliance, and we spoke about, in infrastructure how it can be helped. Now say I am someone who's interested in parametric architecture. What is a
Mhm.
product I can actually go out and buy right now? A simple product, I don't know, like a
I
cup for
I
the
think you will
furniture.
get lamp. I think you will get a lamp in the market, and not
Okay.
even in a store. I think you'll get it if you go to a CNC router person, and maybe they have it like put in their showroom or something. But
Okay.
yeah, because it's very, again, I told you, it's so customizable that it's like you should definitely have a catalog of it in a
Hmm.
store. But unfortunately right now it's not there. Like I am trying to develop a whole catalog of these parametric furnitures, which
Hmm.
I'll have to again start promoting it with different vendors in the city. And or maybe I might have to start investing into it, so
Hmm.
people can see the physical products and then maybe decide that. Because again, like if you think about it, let's say I am not able to invest into something as big as a table or a chair or whatever, I can just get a lamp, and that would be like an added element into the room. Or a fall ceiling can be done. Like you can absolutely apply, I can even apply these parametric principles into the flooring of the house. So I can take like a certain floor pattern if I want, or I can
Hmm.
create a pattern and I can get it printed on a tile and I can just install the tile. So
Okay.
it is so flexible. Like the flexibility is amazing, and you can apply it absolutely anywhere, absolutely anywhere. It's done
Absolutely.
in
I
jewelry also, because you can 3D print jewelry now. You can like
Okay.
do SLS printing in terms of metal. So people are
So
making jewelry
for
out of
those
it.
of you who don't know, SLS printing is basically selective laser sintering. It's a form of 3D printing technology, which essentially, as she mentioned, right, you need a lot of digital marketing and digital manufacturing in architecture, in parametric architecture. Digital manufacturing actually came up because of parametric designs itself. So jewelry, as she mentioned, I actually would love to see some interesting jewelry designs using parametric architecture, because The
Yeah.
jewelry designs which you normally see are so boring, for the lack of better
Yeah,
word.
yeah, because now they don't know, like they are doing it by hand. And if I get again the same like different slices, what you can't do by hand, you can do it by using these digital tools. So the complexity, the minute you increase the complexity of a furniture of anything, like you take anything. If I'm talking about jewelry in this case, if I'm changing like creating a very crazy like shape or a very complex looking shape, I can, like a person can't physically make it, so I can get it 3D printed or SLS or use any other kind of technology, and it is easy for me to then, in that case, realize it. So that's how, or I can make a mold of it and mold that jewelry altogether. So there are so many digital manufacturing things that you study. Like all these were taught to us actually during our academic works. Like when we were studying, and I studied from BNCA Pune. So there they taught all about these different digital fabrication tools, and we actually made use of CNC, 3D printers. We have used all these. We have used a robotic arm also to,
Wow.
like, understand how it works in our college. So it is as advanced as that. And then when, like, so this was a very funny thing that happened. So the question was, what will you do after your masters? Will you start applying for jobs? So the only question I could think was, I can't go back to my SketchUp and Photoshop anymore. Like I don't even use Photoshop for making these presentations anymore. I have moved on to softwares which are like vector based, and Photoshop is like a kid software, or SketchUp is like just for rapid prototyping. So I don't
Absolutely.
even, like, we were asked to delete photo, like these SketchUp and our AutoCAD. We were asked to delete them from our laptops because, like, why do you need to
Absolutely.
use it? Like, so that's how we moved. So now going back to that, it's quite like difficult. But you have to do everything. You have to.
Basically, it feels limiting.
Yeah, it does. It does feel limiting. So I was designing a facade for a commercial building. So I was
Okay.
so, like, I'm so used to working with parametric softwares. So even if I
Mhm.
need like single lines going on for a building facade, like for the panels, I make use of parametric tools, and that's how I code it. Like I quickly code it because I know it will give me much more accurate answers. Like
Absolutely. Makes
copying
sense.
something and making a code out of something is very different, and it gives a very precise, no human error. Like the only human error that will happen in a parametric architecture is when you give a wrong input to it. So that's why
Absolutely.
it is
Because it's
very
all machine generated.
exactly.
So, guys, that's all from my side. I'm opening it up to questions now. Please let us know if you have any questions in the comment section below. Any doubts related to parametric architecture, I would love to have Suvarna answer them, because I think it's been a really engaging session. Some eye opening, if you ask me, because I was like, oh wow, I didn't know you could do urban planning with parametric architecture. That
Yeah.
was really surprising to me. So, guys, any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. I'll wait for a couple of minutes. If I get any questions, great. If not, we'll wind up the session.
Yeah.
So, any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. Okay, so we have a simple comment, not a question, but now the trend is changing very fast with information technology and software in all engineering aspects and design aspects. I completely agree. I mean, with software, coming into design and all that, it is gonna be something like this. Like, what's your thoughts on this, Swarna?
Yeah, and there is one more, which is something very interesting about parametric architecture is you don't need to be, like, I don't need to be on site all the time. I can work
Okay.
on it remotely from anywhere. I just need to know what the client wants. And let's say I have a project which has to be done. Like people have actually done it. Like this architect Jack Ingles, he has actually done it. So he has this pavilion design for the Serpentine Gallery in London. So he did the designs in Denmark. He got it, like he placed it in the London gallery. And
Okay.
once it was done, like once the purpose was solved and he had to remove it, he transported the entire material. And because it's all like prefab, it uses a lot of prefabrication and site, like constructing on site. So he took everything and he moved it to another place. So that's how
Okay.
easy it is to fabricate it. And like another example would be a pavilion done by Zaha Hadid. So
Mhm.
she stitched these materials in London, and then they were transported to another country. I think it was China, and then they just built it up there. So, the flexibility of doing the job is very high in this.
Absolutely. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So, guys, thanks a lot for watching. I think it was a really, really interesting session. You can follow Suvarna's work at the Instagram link I've just shown at Para Arc Design Studio. You can definitely check out her work in Issue, the magazine website, and Behance. And if you want to write to her, please make a note of her email ID. I'll leave them in the description later on. But right now, in the live session, for the people who are joining us, do write to Architect Suvarna if you have any questions related to parametric architecture. I think it was a really, really nice session. I hope some of our viewers who are asking, I would like to buy some furniture. Suvarna, you have something ready so that you can sell them some furniture. Thanks a lot for joining this session.
Definitely. And I am like these days, like I just finished a 2 week long workshop last week,
Mhm.
and it was a very interesting. We had this bunch of 8 girls, and they were all in their second and third year of bachelors, and it was
Okay.
just amazing the way they learned, and the outputs that we achieved, and so that motivated us, really motivated us, and now we are starting another set of parametric architecture workshops, and
Okay.
these are in like so we are collaborating with few people and doing that, and
Okay.
so
So
we'll
if
have
anyone
one
wants
more
these
batch in
details,
August. Yeah,
so based on what you just told, Mohana Krishnan has a question. Do you know any
yeah,
online courses we can attend about parametric
I am
architecture?
doing that.
So
You can
you
take
can
my
attend
class.
Suvarna's course.
Yeah.
You can attend Suvarna's course. So how does
Yeah.
someone attend Suvarna? I mean, do they write to
Yeah,
you or
so
do you have a contact number?
yeah, we'll be starting with the promotions in a day or two. So I'll be posting it up on my page and on Para Arc also. And
Okay.
roughly by I think by 4th August or something, we are anticipating if we get the appropriate number of students. So yeah,
Hmm.
definitely in August we'll have another batch of it. And
Okay.
there are few more interesting workshops that I am planning from my end, which are based on Illustrator and InDesign, and
Okay.
like how the entire SketchUp, because really like it's not for the advanced architects, but yeah, the second years and the third year students, and like if you want to design a rapid like quick conceptual design, you do need SketchUp. So for that I'm taking like this AutoCAD, SketchUp, and Illustrator, like this entire package of workshop, because
Hmm.
so this will again start in August. I'll be like putting out the details on my page soon, maybe within a week
Sure.
or
So
something,
guys,
so you can
please
follow my page. Yeah.
follow her page. Mohan Krishnan, I hope this answers your question. Mohana Krishnan, you can follow Swarna or you can write to her. I'm just highlighting her email ID right now. She'll definitely send you the details. I know for a fact that she's already conducted some of these, at least
Yeah.
basics of parametric architecture workshops in the past. So I'm sure you're going to
Yeah.
enjoy. I hope Homebanao community gives you as many numbers as you need. So for those of you who are not
Definitely.
subscribed to Homebanao, please subscribe to Homebanao and follow Swarna at Para Arc Design Studio on Instagram. You just search Para Arc. I think hers is one of the first
Yeah,
results
it
which
would
pop.
pop up. Yeah. Yeah.
So great. Thanks a lot for joining us, Swarna. It was a very, very informative
Thank you.
session. I'm sure our audience also loved it. There were a lot of questions for you, and I hope you enjoyed answering some of these questions.
Yeah, it was
So,
amazing.
guys,
Thank you for inviting me. It was an amazing experience. Yeah.
absolutely. So, guys, very quickly, as I conclude this session, don't forget to check out Suvarna's work at Para Arc Design Studio, and she's also available on Issue and on Behance. And if you have any questions, you can write to her at architectsuvarnaagarwal@gmail.com. I'll make sure what I'll do is I'll link all these things in the description after the video goes live. So if people are watching later on, not on the live stream, you can check that out. And any other questions, you can write to her. I'm sure Suvarna would love to answer your questions. And those of you who haven't subscribed to Homebanao, please subscribe to Homebanao so that you can see a lot more future content like this. Suvarna, we need a commitment from you that whenever you do finish your furniture, the the
Yes,
video has to go
definitely.
live on Homebanao.
Yes,
I
yes,
would love
sure. For
to.
sure. I'll give you a walkthrough of the entire living room that I've done. So
So
you can see how it implements and how it works out with the entire design. Yeah.
wonderful. So, guys, the
Yeah.
moment some of the furniture which she was working on, although they're on pause because of this entire COVID situation, the moment it goes live, I'll make sure that it's published on Homebanao. So, don't forget to follow Homebanao as well. Thanks a lot, guys. See you in